Coming to you live from the Bottom Line Command Center. We're doing it up right here on the home opener weekend. We've got not just one, but we've got two of the crew ready to talk about the Battlehawks. Let's get things started.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
We decided with the Battlehawks coming to St. Louis for the home opener this weekend that it was time for a live Battlehawk talk show. And we want to send out special thanks to the St. Louis Battlehawks and Brian Stoll for giving us the opportunity to interview one of the players. We hope that happens several times this year. It's always nice to get to know the players behind the blue curtain a little bit better so that when you go to the games and fill the dome, you know just a little bit more about the players.
And what a super good guy.
He was.
I mean, you know, when they talk about gentle giants, this guy's a gentle giant. He's a scary man, but he's a super good guy. So, you know, the interview that Ed was able to conduct with Abdul Beecham is super good. So, you know, I hope you enjoy it, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't get right into it.
And it's only fitting that I discuss the U and the Lou over here to my side because, you know, health these days, everybody's health nuts, right? But the U and the Lou is for those special linemen that don't get all the accolades, that come in, they grind it every day. You know, you got all these stellar athletes that get all the attention. It's all about the V, right?
Yep.
Well, the linemen that do all the work, you know, sometimes that V can get a little stressed, and that V becomes a U. Well, as you can see, I have my U in the Lou Hall of Fame that I started with the Battlehawks in 2023. My first induction was Kevin Atkins over here, the Bulldog from Fresno State. So you can see his picture is always on my backdrop every show. Then our second inductee, Chris Claiborne, was a defensive linebacker coach, lineman coach for the Battlehawks. As you can remember, he had a long NFL career with the Detroit Lions, ended up with the good team in purple to finish it off. So he's the second inductee into Ed's U in the Lou. Who will be the third?
He might be a candidate.
He might be this next. Our guest may be the third U in the Lou. Let's find out. So we had the pleasure. The St. Louis Battlehawks and Brian Stahl gave us the opportunity to sit down with Abdul Beecham, a starting offensive guard for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And I want to play a few clips of his, and we can talk more about it on the back end. But we talked a little bit. I talked a little bit to him about week one, and let's hear what he had to say. And let's see. Hi, Abdul. Thanks for giving me some of your time tonight.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Most definitely.
I know the season is just getting started, but can you comment, at least in week one, the vast improvement that the offense has shown in third down efficiency? I think last year in 24, St. Louis finished at the bottom with only a 34% third down efficiency. Fast forward that back to week one, you started out 8 for 12, 67%. So can you put your finger on this improvement, and what does this kind of success early on do for the mindset of the offensive line?
Well, third down especially was a point of emphasis going into this season, and it was a point of emphasis during camp, point of emphasis leading up to the game. Phil, our offensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job of just, letting us be aware of the situation, playing smart situational football. Our offensive line coach, Coach Mark Colombo, does an excellent job of pounding the details and making sure that we're on the little things, because, ultimately that's what matters, and Coach Kyle Caskey, our running back coach, does an excellent job of being on the same page with everybody and just making the wheels turn and kind of just getting everybody to understand that if we're spending time talking about these things throughout the off season, throughout training camp, they're important, and it's something that we need to work on as a team if we want to take that next step. And coming out and doing that week one, it proves nothing, honestly, because anybody can do something once. We have to come out and be consistent with that and do it week to week for people to start believing it. But it does feel good though, because it's something that we worked for, something that we talked about all off season, and then to come together, as one and accomplish that week one, it does something to your confidence. It has us. Our confidence is sky high right now. But our motto for this week and moving on is just don't get comfortable. Just because we had a little success, don't let complacency sink in, and we got to just keep hammering the details. We have the formula. The guys just have to stick to it.
So can you comment on what it meant to the offensive line to find out that the league named the whole offensive line as Players of the Week on offense? That's a pretty awesome achievement.
Yeah, it felt good, to get some recognition because we know, as an offense, how hard we've worked. This offensive line is a stacked offensive line room. I'll tell you that. Coach Beck said it earlier during camp, and he wasn't lying. The backups on our team could very well be starters on other teams in the league, and I wholeheartedly believe that. So our practices are highly competitive. We push each other every single day. It was something that we wanted to change about the team, from last year to this year, is that the details, man, just the details. We have the talent, in the room. I believe we have the best offensive line in the UFL, but how are we going to put that on display? It doesn't mean anything if we believe it. We have to make everybody else believe it. So how do we go about that? It's the details. So it meant a lot to us. Me and Jared, the left tackle, we were joking around in training camp, just, because we were looking at the different bonuses that you get or whatever from the UFL. And, they got the Player of the Week bonus and all this stuff. And we're like, oh, man, we might as well just scratch that off the list. Like, no offensive lineman is winning Player of the Week, bro. Like, that's just money that we'll never get. And what do you know, week one, they gave it to all 5 of the guys. So we were excited about that. But like I said, man, we just can't get comfortable. We can't just sit there and listen to all the pats on the back and the congratulations, because that complacency can creep in real fast.
So what does, last year with AJ as quarterback,
Mhm.
he was obviously more of a drop back passer,
Mhm.
didn't have much of scrambling ability. So, you guys really had to form the pocket and protect him.
Mhm.
Now looking at the way Manny Wilkins plays the position, what unique challenges does that present to you guys? Because you really need to know where he's going to be in the pocket
Mhm.
and what what lanes to create for him to get out. I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of challenges does a quarterback like Manny Wilkins bring to offensive line?
Well, it's a little bit, things are different between Manny and AJ. I wouldn't say necessarily challenges. The only thing that we had, to work on, just, switching from AJ to Manny, was little things like, the cadence, getting used to his cadence over AJ's or whatever. But to be honest, it's made it a lot easier on us as an offensive line, just knowing that he has that escapability. So a lot of the times, things might look good, but Manny is the one that's making us right, as offensive linemen, and he tells us all the time, dude, if we let one person go, one person is not going to tackle him. One person is not going to get him to the ground, especially if they're coming from depth. He's making a move and he's out of there. He's out of the pocket. So, you know, it is different. It took a little getting used to, but Manny has been in the system with us for 3 years. So he's a familiar face that we've practiced with, all throughout the season last year and then this year. So it wasn't so much like it was like a new guy coming in. He's been with the team. He's been in the system. Everybody loves Manny. We love all the quarterbacks, honestly, and they've done a great job of really grasping the offense and taking charge. Same thing with Max. He, when he comes in, it's just like nothing changes. He comes in and he's running the offense like this. It's crisp. So I'm excited. I'm excited to show everybody what we've been working on, and especially for Manny, man. I know he's been through a lot. I know a lot of people had mixed opinions on him starting week one, but I told him earlier that week. I said, "Look, man, you won the job in training camp. The guys in training camp know that fair and square. It was a very fair competition, and he came out on top." And I told him, like, "Look, we have your back no matter what, especially in this offensive line room. Forget what everybody else is saying, what you read online or what, everybody else is saying. We, as the players and the offensive line, we have your back and we believe in you." And he played like that, man. He played with all the confidence, like he was the guy, because he is the guy.
Yeah, he definitely played a good game.
That's for sure. The things that I pulled away from that segment that really talked to me as a football coach, and the things that I looked for. He talked about finding consistency. He talked about the details. He talked about this is just one game out of 10, and so and hopefully more. So that's the type of mindset that I think this coaching staff has created, with these guys, and he's a clear reflection of it. That they understand that it's game to game. Don't get too comfortable. You can be players of the week this week, and then guess what?
Yeah.
You make the stud list this week, you make the dud list next week, right?
And what also was very obvious in the interview was that the offensive line has a very high regard of Manny Wilkins.
Yes.
And I think Manny has the respect of the locker room. And I think in week one that showed. I mean, they kind of talked about the fact that it was going to be a two-prong attack at quarterback leading in to the game we had against Houston.
Which I think we all thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
And it was like, okay, when is Max going to get his chance?
Yep.
When is Max going to get his chance?
Yep.
But Manny showed really from beginning to end that he had complete control.
Yes.
And, game manager, is it a bad word? Sometimes they label quarterbacks as game managers because, let's face it, their abilities are limited.
Not flashy.
Yeah, not flashy. Now, when you have rushing attack that's 273 yards,
Yes.
or 207, it's easy to be a manager of the game because you really don't have to pull out all the stops. You're just, grinding it out. You're limiting the mistakes. You're not doing the things that kill drives. But the true test is going to come when St. Louis plays that defense that's going to limit the rushing game.
Yep.
And now, what can Manny do as a quarterback putting the ball in the air? Okay, we know that he can rush. We know he can scramble. We know how the rhythm of the offense works when things are going good. Now, when the opposing defense starts tightening the screws, what can Manny bring to the table in the passing game? I think that's what we need to see.
Well, and I think game one spoke to that a little bit, but you're right. When the rush game isn't there, they're stacking the box, whatever it might be. But I think game one alluded a little bit to that because he did have a 77% completion rate. That was the thing that I looked at when he was called on to throw the ball. He was able to deliver it at a 77% clip. So for me, I guess I look at it this, I'm a coach. I've been a coach for almost 30 years at all different levels. And sometimes, us as analysts, the fans, whoever you want to throw in there, maybe sometimes the coaches do know better. Whether we agree, whether we thought it was going to be that way, no matter what the situation, maybe they do know what they're doing. We want to sit here and, I, for one, I had heard it was Cordero and Duggan. And Manny was QB3 at one time. I don't know if it's an article or where I heard that from. But then I thought, I had seen Max Duggan play at TCU. So I thought, I've seen that guy's ability. I've seen that talent. And then here we are with Manny, and everybody kind of went, whoa. But you know what? Maybe the coaches do know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because he was impressive in week one.
And it never hurts on offense to have some playmakers.
Yes.
And, case in point, second quarter, Battlehawks leading 12-0. Even though they had dominated the game, it was still very close.
Mm-hmm.
3rd down and 16. Manny throws a pass in the flat to Jacob Sailors. He proceeds to not break one tackle, but he breaks 2 tackles. And before you know it, I guess it was 3rd and 18, not 3rd and 16. Yep. It was 3rd and 18. He gets 19. And now you're going from having to punt the ball, Houston maybe driving, getting a field goal, turning it into a 1-score game, to that 1st down, continues that drive. And by the time halftime comes, it's 18-0. And the way Houston was performing on offense, it was pretty much a game, set, match at that point.
Do you know who the loneliest guy on Friday night was for the Battlehawks?
I would have to say the punter.
The punter. He was the loneliest guy. He didn't even need to bring his helmet to work that day. And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
That's a real good thing. So,
but the defense gave Houston no reason to think that they were ever going to be in that game.
It was a stranglehold.
And I tell you what, the one blessing, the one advantage that St. Louis has over other teams in the UFL so far this season is the fact that the core of our team is returning.
Is it 31 or 32 off of last year's team?
And I would say that the 32 off that team are pretty much a lot of the starters.
Correct.
Because,
yes.
William Harvey's a beast. He's been, leading tackler for the Battlehawks ever since 23 and bringing in Mike Rose. Can Mike Rose stay healthy? That's the question.
That's the key.
Mike Rose playing middle linebacker and allowing William Harvey to roam is is a recipe for success.
Now, shout out to my Iowa State boys.
Yeah, what's the deal? You would think the head coach must have something to do with Iowa State. Whether, I don't know
He might.
Whether
He
his
might.
son happens to play quarterback for Iowa State or what, but not only do you bring in William Harvey, Mike Rose, Hakeem Butler. Is it Chase Allen?
Chase Allen,
Chase
tight
Allen.
end, 6'6".
Then, if that's not enough, hell, let's go out and find a quarterback coach,
Seneca Wallace.
who, by the way, is another Iowa State Cyclone.
But I will tell you, the way Manny plays and the way Max Duggan played at TCU, they remind me a lot of what Seneca Wallace was at Iowa State back in the day. So to me, Coach Beck bringing him in and understanding what his skills were and understanding and what he was able to do in college. Seneca had a successful college career and then went on the NFL, but understanding his talents and his abilities and him being able to relay that, to Manny, to Max, I think that's going to be big.
Yeah, Seneca is Manny.
Yeah.
I mean, the minute they named Seneca Wallace as the quarterback coach, I was like, makes perfect sense.
Completely.
Makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And the time will have to come, though. Manny, I pray to God, Manny does have a stellar season and never gives up the helm. But there's going to come a time where I want to see what Max Duggan has to offer. I tell you what, when he come on the field, even though it was the fourth quarter and even though the game was well in hand, when he ran out onto the field, he's a presence himself.
He is. You know what I was hoping? I know how it plays out. I've been there too, but I was hoping they'd let him go. I was hoping they'd let him throw the ball a little bit, but I get it. The game was out of hand, whatever, but I was hoping they'd let him throw a little bit just to.
Yeah. So what did they do? He added to the rushing total.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so he come in to add to the rushing total.
And I think a lot of people would agree to this, at least in part. It seems to me that a lot of the teams that do have success, harken back to the Stallions last year, when your quarterback can be mobile, when your quarterback can get that first down on 3rd and 10, or whatever it might be, that seems to be a pretty good recipe. Because if you think last year, St. Louis was dead last in 3rd down efficiency.
34% clip there at the bottom of the league.
Okay, so what part, and this isn't a knock on AJ, it just wasn't part of his game, but what was he missing? That ability to get that 10-yard, 11-yard, 12-yard scramble to get us that first down.
That's right.
Well, you look at Manny and you look at Max now, and I think Max will get a shot at some point here or there, but you look at those guys now, we have that ability. That's just one more thing that the defensive guys can't just pin their ears back and say, go get that guy standing back there. And that's kind of, I think, the dynamic that St. Louis is going to be able to take advantage of going forward here.
Yeah. 8 for 12 on 3rd downs. The flow of the game was there. You could see it.
Yep.
But, going into that game, there were several, that was riding on the Houston train that thought Houston, had a change in roster, and they really looked for him to come out week 1 and not only play well, but actually win the game. And St. Louis really from the kickoff gave them no reason to believe that was going to be the case. I mean, it was a Battlehawks game all the way. So now let's start talking about week 2. Now the offensive line for the Battlehawks have to go up against a Wade Phillips defense, someone who's had a stellar career in the NFL and is known for defense. To me, week 1 for San Antonio, it was a grease fire, throw it out. I got to believe that San Antonio is going to be ready to play. And let's get back to our conversation with Abdul Beecham, and let's talk a little bit about what the offensive line for the Battlehawks can expect when they play the San Antonio Brahmas tomorrow. Wade Phillips, moving forward to your game on Sunday.
Mhm.
Wade Phillips is known throughout, for his career in the NFL, big defensive mind. Last year he had the Brahmas at the top in defense. So, with the little stumble they had in week one, obviously that's not going to be what a Wade Phillips defense looks like going forward.
For sure.
What is there anything that a Wade Phillips defense brings that you guys automatically know is going to be coming on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, well, aside from different schemes and whatever, I mean, you could just expect them to be a real downhill team, really fast and physical. When I think of a Wade Phillips coached San Antonio defense, I just think of speed, just speed. Their linebackers, they are, I think, two of the best in the league. They really get to the ball quick. They're not afraid of contact. They come downhill and they hit. Their defensive line, their front four, they're relentless. They get off blocks really well. They're good at the point of attack. They're strong. They love to rush the passer. So it's going to be a great matchup and a great test for us. Like you said, we don't really look too far into that week one game because spring football is different. It's different from football in the fall. You have a month to get these guys together and to put everything together, and then boom, you're playing on national television. So certain things happen. You can't look too far into week one, because everybody's still kind of figuring themselves out. So we know that we're going to get a different San Antonio team. That's a great football team, and they have a great coach, honestly. So Wade Phillips is one of the all-time greats, and he is, going to have the defense flying around and ready to go. I already know.
So that, St. Louis has the advantage of, having a lot of the core of the team back.
Mhm.
And so obviously a lot of the players knew what that felt like last year, losing in the XFL championship game.
Yeah.
How much of that do you as players carry over to this season to kind of give you that additional incentive, I guess you would say, preparing for this game? And how much of it is overblown by us and it's just something you guys let go and move on?
Yeah. Well, it's a interesting combination. It's like nobody really cares about last year. Last year happened, but I mean, we're human. It's always in the back of your head, that game last year. Everybody knows what it is. You don't have to come out and say it. You don't have to be, around headquarters just like, oh yeah, man, I can't wait to get them back. Like they beat us in the XFL Championship. It's none of that. So this is a new year. This is a new team. The new guys that we have around, and we're looking to make our mark on this season, not anything that happened, last season. So it's not really talked about on our side. But we all know what it is though. You know what I'm saying? They took from us what we wanted. So we have to go out there and just play fast.
So you had the you had the luxury, I shouldn't say luxury, well, it is a luxury, of playing in front of the St. Louis crowd last year.
Mhm.
And so um, does it in any way compare to your days in Kansas State? I mean, is
It's,
what kind of
it's,
an
it's,
atmosphere is it compared to what you were used to?
it's funny you say that because I always compared it to when people ask me. It's very similar. I just think football in the Midwest in general is just great. I love it, honestly. They're big football. That part of the country in particular, the Midwest, is they love football. They do, and they will come out and they support hard and in numbers too. So, that's when I played in St. Louis last year for the first time. That's all I was thinking about. Was it gave me certain flashbacks of my time at Kansas State. The crowd, had the same type of atmosphere, the same hype, the same love. Everybody was very friendly, and it was a great time. I'm excited to go back.
Well, I want to wish you nothing but the best and good luck this weekend. I've been a season ticket holder since 2020, and
Oh
I
yeah.
can't think of a better place for a UFL game than in St. Louis. So
Yes, sir.
I'm
You
sure
know
it's
it.
got to pump you guys up when you go to some of these other cities to be able to come home to play in the Dome.
Oh yeah, we're thankful, man. Playing in the Dome is a blessing for sure.
Well, I want to thank you, and good luck this Sunday, and bring home the dub for us, will you?
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
So, he hit on some of the things that we talked about on, the Wednesday show. It's Wade Phillips. Okay, Wade Phillips is, he's got a laundry list of things that he's done.
And I've seen enough press conferences for Wade Phillips that I know when he wins and I know when he loses.
That's right.
And when at the press conference, when he started off, he was very kind of standoffish, didn't really want to say too much. But Kellen Mond come on, and when Kellen Mond started to talk, Wade Phillips kept giving him those looks. And if looks could kill, I'm not so sure Kellen Mond would be available for week number 2. So it definitely, the strength of San Antonio's team, no doubt, is their defense. And I think the ineptness of San Antonio's offense just didn't allow the Brahmas to play their type of game at all.
Right.
They were playing from behind the 8 ball from the get-go. So I got to believe that Coach Wade Phillips, in his mind, he's thinking we got to start fast, we got to get the lead, and we got to let our defense take the control of this game because let's face it, San Antonio's defense is built on speed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's St. Louis is well served to play with the lead once again, because I think the longer St. Louis plays from behind, the harder and harder it's going to get to be for San Antonio to pull this, for St. Louis to pull this game out.
Well, and listen, I think, week 1 showed the winning formula for St. Louis. Get out to that lead, ball control, take time off the clock. Now, could it be that San Antonio jumps out to an early lead and they're but right now the winning formula last Friday was, get out to a lead, ball control, get the time off the clock, walk away with a W. So I think that's, if we can get to that point, this is my opinion, and you could disagree. I know San Antonio's defense is fast. I know they're good. I know they tackle. But what about their offense, at least in week 1, said that they can get out to that early lead?
And will Kellen Mond eventually find it?
Yes.
I listened to a lot of the San Antonio podcasts this week, and they mentioned the fact that Kellen Mond hasn't been a starting quarterback for probably 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I can buy some of that because, look at what happens to some of the quarterbacks in the NFL when they don't start for a year or 2. It doesn't take long for the game and the league to pass you by.
Yeah.
So he has definitely got a lot of catching up to do. I just hope he doesn't catch up in week 2.
No.
He needs some time to get that rust off you, I think.
Yeah. Well, and Alex Magoo is a classic example of that rust. I mean, you think about it. He was with the Green Bay Packers. He wasn't even taking snaps. They had him at wide receiver, or they had him at tight end, or I think it was wide receiver. So he wasn't even taking snaps. So I think your point to being a little rusty and trying to, again, as a Battlehawk fan, I am hoping that rust remains.
Well, let's talk about rust. Alex Magoo with the Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah.
He comes back where in the NFL they had moved him to wide receiver.
Yep.
Now he comes back a couple years later to Birmingham where he's already won 1 championship, but it's taken him a little while to find it again. And so we got some people joining us today. I don't know who this Gene Burns is.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know
the
her?
name kind of sounds familiar.
It does. It rings a bell. But
And then, of course, we got Amanda, a.k.a. Smiley, joining us. But we got the little dude. We got the family of the little dude that's the huge Battlehawk fan that travels the league-wide to watch the Battlehawks play. I really have a lot of respect and a lot of admirations for those fans that can make the trek to all these venues every week to watch the Battlehawk. And the little dude says hi. How about that?
Hey, Evan.
We will see you tomorrow, no doubt, at the tailgate lot. We're looking forward to the bottom line Avenue of Flags for sure.
It is going to be, in my humble opinion, it's going to be epic.
But as part of the Battlehawk talk that we want to make sure is, it's easy to talk football with these football players.
Yes.
But we're finding out, and we hope we find out a lot more about the players on the St. Louis Battlehawks team this year. We found out a little bit more about Abdul, that besides football, he's kind of
he's into something else.
He's into something else.
He is.
So as a nice little treat segment, we're going to bring you a little piece of Abdul that maybe
you didn't know
just
about.
Maybe you didn't know about him. So Brian Stahl joined our one-on-one, and he had some questions for Abdul, and let's watch.
So besides playing football, because I'm going to let Ed ask all the football questions and about the award, the offensive line, everything. I know that's all coming. I'm going to let him do that. You got to share a little bit about this recording career, this music thing that you got going on. What's the 411 on that?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I've been writing music really my whole life, ever since I was little. I've always loved music. It's been kind of an escape for me, a getaway. I just put music just makes everything better. The world is a better place with music in it. So I didn't start recording and actually taking it serious till about 2 years ago. But even then, I had a lot to learn just with the engineering, trying to find my sound, which settings to put my voice in and what sounds good. Do I use auto-tune? Do I not use auto-tune? So just trying to figure that out. It took over the course of about 2 years. But now that I feel like I've kind of found my sound that I want to stick with, I've been able to drop some stuff on streaming platforms.
Gotcha. So is this mainstream? What kind of genre? How would you describe it?
Yeah, it's mainstream. I would describe it as hip hop and R&B. I like to tap into the R&B side as well.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And where can people find your music?
On all streaming platforms: Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, everything.
And it's under Abdul Beecham, not because Manny's 5. Like if you just look at Manny, it's a little harder to find.
It's under Beach. It's under just Beach. Beech.
Yep. Okay. All right. Awesome.
And I found him yesterday, so I'm following Abdul. It's, we're hoping here at Battlehawk Talk that this is just the first of many opportunities to interview. And again, I want to thank Abdul for sitting down with me one-on-one, because it's really cool to get, like I said, to peel back that blue curtain and find out what makes these guys tick.
Well, and because we're all Battlehawk fans, we watch the games on TV, or you're in the game in the stands, you see the uniforms, you see the numbers, but that's about what you know about them.
And when you're sitting in the stands and you see number 62 go running by, you're going to go, hey, there's that guy.
Yeah.
He likes music and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You can put something with the number.
Yeah. And so to get to know these guys, not just as football players, but the fact that, he's recording music and whatnot, that's huge. And I think people enjoy, that. And thanks for Brian for bringing that up and asking those questions, because I think that's important for people to understand that these guys do other things too than just
Absolutely.
play football.
So as we kicked off week number 2 last night, just when you thought that it was Michigan's time to take control of the USFL, we found that Birmingham was ready to say, not so fast, my friend.
Yep.
And, I won't go into it now. You'll have to watch Wednesday night's show at 8 p.m. Central. But one of the segments that I like to hit is the game changers. And you look at a game like last night, and your initial thought is Birmingham had that game in control from beginning to end. I'm going to be able to show you 3 instances, 3 plays that had they gone a different way, completely changes the complexion of that
100%. But you'll have to tune in on Wednesday.
You'll have to tune in.
Before you say any more, you'll have to tune in Wednesday.
8 p.m. Central. And another edition of Eric's Studs
and
and
Duds.
Duds.
You want to be a stud? Make the list.
Sporting his Midwest-looking cowboy hat. Northwest Iowa cowboy hat.
As much as you want to call it that.
So let's get in. Let's go in. I know we gave our predictions on Wednesday night, but we may have some new listeners here that didn't hear what our picks was.
Well,
why don't you start off, and why don't you throw a score with it while you're at it?
So I am obviously taking St. Louis. We're obviously down here going to the game with Ed and Jolene. Brought my wife and my 2 youngest boys. They're going to have their first Battlehawk experience. So I'm doing my part to get people here. So this is how I see it going. I really like our defense. Our defense looked really good. And I think that if San Antonio continues to struggle, our defense is going to pin their ears back. Pete had a great game last week. I anticipate he's going to have a great game this week. Linebackers are flying to the ball. Our secondary really did a phenomenal job when the ball did go up in the air. So if San Antonio continues to have those struggles, I'm looking for the Battlehawks to win the turnover battle, create 2 or 3, either by way of fumble or interception. I think the game. I think what Vegas have us at about a 7-point spread.
Yes. 7 points.
I'm not sure if it's going to be 7 because, again, I think San Antonio by proxy has become a St. Louis rival. And they're looking to come up.
They even play their home games here.
Right. Yes.
How can they not be a rival?
And so, I think I'm seeing a game somewhere in the neighborhood of a 27-21, 21-14 type of game, 15-16, somewhere right in there. But bank on it. Battlehawks, you got this. Come on.
You talk about Pete on defense, Eric. I'd like to bring up the other side of the line, Travis Feeney.
Yes.
Who in week 1 was a little quiet. But if you remember that XFL championship game last year, there was a little bit of animosity when the game was over.
Yes.
Travis Feeney was not a very happy camper. So I got to believe that he's going to be looking to make his mark in the 2025 season on defense. So I wouldn't be so sure that we hear Travis Feeney's name come over the speaker a time or two.
I hope we're watching plenty of highlights up on the big screen of Feeney taking it to him.
That's right. The one thing that scares me about this game, well, actually, there's 2 things. The first thing is as we saw with Birmingham, you can play really bad one week, and if you got the heart of a champion, you're going to rebound the next week and show them just why this old dog isn't ready to be pushed out on the porch yet. So I look for a rebound from San Antonio from that standpoint. But the other thing, too, that showed up in that playoff game last year, Anthony McFarland. Week 1 against Arlington, didn't hear much.
3 carries, 32 yards.
Yes. But 3 carries, 32 yards. I do the math. Put the ball in his hands 12 or 15 times, and what happens?
Right.
So hopefully the St. Louis defense has got an answer to limit him. I think if you can keep McFarland under wraps, take Kirkland out of the game, which I know is a tall lad, but
minimize.
I mean, even make him pedestrian.
Yep.
And show Okay, San Antonio, what else you got with your wide receiving core?
Yes.
So you take away those two aspects, I think that St. Louis is going to roll to 2-0. I think St. Louis will pull away late, but I look something in the neighborhood of 26-13 per score.
But here's the deal, and we talked about this on Wednesday. There are no sleepers on the XFL side of the.
God, there's not.
I mean, you want to talk about a gauntlet. A gauntlet.
Here comes. I truly believe this season's going to be another repeat of 2023, in the fact that if you look at the USFL division, Michigan, Birmingham, if they continue to struggle, I think they can go as much as 5-5 and still make the playoffs, because I look at Memphis and Houston both being sub 500 teams. So what does that mean for the XFL? You've got 4 teams that on any given day can slap each other around.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe that a record of 7-3 is probably going to win the XFL division. And I think there's going to be 2 teams sitting there at 6-4. And you ask yourself, how can you have 3 teams in one division with a winning record? Well, it happened in 2023 because the XFL was able to kind of beat up on the USFL side of things. I think that repeats itself this year. And I see whether it's St. Louis, San Antonio, or DC, or Arlington, whoever, there's going to be 2 teams sitting there at 6-4 that by tiebreaker is going to get left out of the playoffs. I truly believe that's going to be.
Well, just as you said it, Michigan and Birmingham, do your job, you're probably in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you had $1 million right now, give me you just 100%. Give me your 2 playoff teams on the XFL division side, for sure. Like, these are locks, baby. You know,
yeah. We could sit here and make an argument for every combination of the 2 teams in the XFL.
Yes,
but I would truly believe that if someone said to you, "Who's the top 2 teams in the USFL?" you'd say Michigan and Birmingham in 5 seconds.
Yeah. Wouldn't take any thought to it.
Wouldn't take any thought to it. None. So I guess we'll see. Week 2 is going to be
a blast.
Yeah. I really enjoy it when Eric comes down. This is going to be the 2nd year in a row he's come down for opening day. And there's nothing like tailgating across the street from the Dome before you go into the games. And I don't know if it's rumor or fact, but I heard that the vest lot had some temporary lighting put up, and the vest lot is going to be open up after all. So for all you Battlehawk fans that are on the fence,
get there
of whether you're coming to the game or not because you don't know where to tailgate, I think you're going to be able to come and tailgate where you've always tailgated. So,
and new turf, new lighting. I mean,
and the blue streamers. Is there a party city in St. Louis that has blue streamers left on their shelf? That's what I want to know.
I'd say probably not.
Battlehawk fans, when the St. Louis scores, I want them to take 15 minutes getting blue streamers off that field. So I even thought about getting them. The problem is I sit so low that I don't think they'd have a chance to unwind much. I'd probably end up pelting them off the head with them. So, with that said, do we have anything else?
I don't think so.
Again, I want to thank Abdul Beecham for joining us. It was outstanding. And I hope and pray that he's able to play football for the Battlehawks for a lot of years. But if he doesn't, I hope his music career turns into everything that he wants it to be.
Yeah. And one more time, we want to thank the Battlehawks and Brian Stoll for allowing us to talk with Abdul, because what a great guy.
He was. He was. You just, it's all you see is a helmet.
Yeah.
Running out onto the field, and half the time, you couldn't pick them out of a lineup without their helmet on. So
other than the fact that they're a giant human being,
yeah,
you can probably take a guess.
They're big dudes. So, like I said, Abdul, he tips the scales. He is more than worthy of being in my U in the Lou. So he's definitely a candidate. He can talk to Chris Claiborne. You know, Chris Claiborne's life changed when he became the second entry into Ed's U in the Lou. It was never the same. I tried to talk to him after the interview. I couldn't even get a hold of him because his phone rang nonstop. I was even supposed to talk to him on a golfing engagement, and we wasn't able to get that to work out. You know, looking back at 20, 25, 24, actually.
24.
There was a lot of things that happened on the golf course that ain't worth talking about.
Oh boy, we don't have time for that.
Yeah, we don't have time to go.
We don't have time for that.
We don't have to go. We don't have time to talk about Chuck Long's golf game.
And he, oh yeah,
We don't have time to talk about Chuck Long's golf game.
Yeah, or yours, or yours. That's for sure.
There is not a more humbling sport in this world than golf.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So,
And so with that said, good luck to the Battlehawks. Get the big dub.
get it.
Get it this weekend. And hopefully next Saturday we'll be back with another player from the St. Louis Battlehawks. See you at the game tomorrow, everybody.
And that's the bottom line.